Again, if anybody is just joining us, we are covering very tragic breaking news in the heart of Washington, D.C., very close to the White House. We are following reports that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, saying, please join me in praying for the 2 National Guardsmen who were just shot. We know that the fire department in D.C. said they transported 3 gunshot victims from this location, and police say the scene is secured. 1 suspect is in custody. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt saying that the White House is aware and the president has been briefed. Sam, I know that we were talking earlier about law enforcement and how they're going to look at all of the footage that they can in this area. Is this area, again, 17th and I Streets in Washington, D.C., very close to the White House? And we see there some pretty big firepower there that law enforcement officers are walking around with. Is this area pretty well covered with CCTV?
This area has an extensive amount of coverage by various law enforcement entities, and there will certainly be a lot of footage to go through. Cameras and other forms of gathering aerial footage are likely deployed in and around this area on an ongoing basis, so very well covered. And I would imagine that law enforcement is already going through those feeds to try to ascertain whether the suspect, who is reportedly in custody, acted alone or not. That's going to be key, in addition to, of course, interviewing the suspect, reviewing the suspect's devices if the suspect is, actually arrested and indicted at some point. But right now, they're probably just trying to ensure what this individual's motive was and whether this individual acted alone or not, while concurrently reviewing any video footage.
Sam, if you can, please stand by for us. I want to bring in Kirk Burkhalter. He's a criminal law professor at New York Law School, spent 20 years in the New York City Police Department, retired as a detective. Thank you so much for being here. What can you tell us about the investigation and what is happening right now?
So just judging from the information that's been released and looking at the video, I would agree that it's too early to say that with your previous guest, that it was too early to say that there is no additional suspects at large. However, from looking at the video, it does seem like the scene is contained. Whether or not we have another person at large will be very much depend on what the authorities learn from the person who has been apprehended. Also, to your point that you were making, the two of you, that in this day and age, the surveillance footage will be extensive. So not only cameras from the police departments, but just about every single office building, every bank in that proximity, they're going to have cameras, and many of them will be facing the street where you can see someone entering or walking past a building. So I don't think it will be too difficult to trace the steps of this particular person. But this is very much still an ongoing investigation. It's unknown, and I doubt if the police even know the motive of the individual yet. At this point, I would suspect they are, once they identify him positively, they will obtain search warrants for wherever he is staying, wherever his home is, and perhaps expand those out, given what information they receive.
Thank you so much for that. You stand by as well. We have new information. I want to go to CBS News Homeland Security and Justice correspondent Nicole Skanga. Nicole, you have confirmed some new information via sources. What can you tell us?
I've been speaking with senior law enforcement officials. 2 National Guardsmen have been shot following the shooting, which was just blocks away from the White House, just to give you a sense of where we are. This is at 17th and I Street Northwest. Our cameras watched as members of the Metropolitan Police Department, D.C. Police, distributed CPR to at least one of the victims. The condition of both of those guardsmen is unknown at this time, but we've just received a statement from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who says, quote, please join me in praying for the 2 National Guardsmen who were just shot moments ago in Washington, D.C. She says that Homeland Security is working with law enforcement to gather more information. In addition to that, Lindsey, senior law enforcement officials tell CBS News that at least one suspect who allegedly opened fire on those guardsmen has been injured and was transported in an ambulance to a D.C. area hospital. That individual's condition is also unknown at this time. We've been reaching out to the National Guard and the Metropolitan Police Department, who tell us that they are still collecting information. Just to give you a sense of what we're looking at right now on the scene, I count dozens of Metropolitan Police Department vehicles. We see the D.C. Fire Department is here. They're putting up do not cross police line tape just about everywhere, including around the crew vehicle that I'm in right now, where our camera crew happened to be downtown and saw all of this playing out. We're also starting to see federal law enforcement descend on the scene, including members of the U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division and ATF police. So just an absolute swarm of both local and federal law enforcement right now as this scene continues to play out and as new details continue to come in.
So, Nicole, is the condition of both of the National Guardsmen who were shot unknown at this time?
At this point in time, their condition is unknown. We do know that both of them were shot. We're waiting to hear more information about just how many times each, members of the National Guard were shot. To sort of give our audience more context, both members of the National Guard were part of a law enforcement task force, a D.C. crime task force, which began back in September. It was part of the president's initiative to make D.C. safe and beautiful again, and has been carrying out arrests across the District of Columbia. So these two National Guardsmen, part of that delegation, and we're told that we should expect a statement from the National Guard, possibly with more on their condition in the upcoming hours, but we have not received that confirmation just yet. We did witness, as first responders with Metropolitan Police, distributed CPR to at least one of those guardsmen, and it appeared very grim, but at this time we've not confirmed anything regarding their condition.
And Nicole, you had just mentioned the context of that operation to clean up crime in Washington, D.C. Do we know whether the guardsmen who were shot were a part of that operation, or would they normally have been patrolling this area?
My understanding, based on conversations with senior law enforcement officials, is that those members of the National Guard were part of this larger operation, and as such, were patrolling the streets nearby the White House. We're very close to Lafayette Park, sort of on the other side of the North Lawn. And so we're just blocks away from the White House. This is an area where over the past several weeks and months, we have seen a number of National Guardsmen who have regularly patrolled downtown areas in the nation's capital, who have regularly patrolled federal parks and lands. And so this is an area where a lot of these National Guardsmen, as part of this White House task force, have been patrolling in large numbers to the tune of hundreds. And this operation, we know, was expected to continue at least until February. Federal law enforcement working alongside state and locals, working alongside the National Guard. And so our understanding is those two individuals were part of this larger operation. And again, at this time, our understanding is at least one suspect was driven to an area hospital in an ambulance. So presumably police are learning more just about what was behind that, and they have identified at least one suspect in this just horrific scene.
Nicole, stand by if you can for anybody who is just joining us to catch everybody up to speed. We are following this breaking news out of Washington, D.C. Our CBS News Homeland Security and Justice correspondent confirming through senior law enforcement officials that two National Guardsmen have been shot at 17th and I Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. This is blocks away from the White House. We know, we believe that both of their conditions are unknown at this time, and that a suspect who allegedly opened fire has been injured and transported to a local hospital. That person's condition also unknown at this time. We know that the president has been briefed on this. DHS Secretary Noem has put out a statement saying, please join me in praying for the two National Guardsmen who were shot just moments ago. We are working to gather more information on this, of course. We have reached out to the National Guard and Metro Police.